Since I've been 3, I've been involved with sports. I started off playing ringette, wasn't on a team, but we had beginner lessons and stuff like that. So from the age of 3 to about the age of 23, I was involved with a variety of different sports between ringette, hockey, basketball, soccer, volleyball, track and field, and it was between community teams as well as national teams I've been on. Track and field was my biggest sporting event. I did javelin for about, I'd say, almost 10 years. And throughout the years, I was on national teams for the Pan American Games. I was on Canada Games team for Nova Scotia. With those two, I came 6th in both of those events. I was one of the youngest ones to be on the Canada Games team at that time. So I was very well educated with health as a whole, knowing to be athletic you have to eat right and about rest and all that. So I had a very good steady routine as a child growing up, going to bed early, getting up, having breakfast, lunch and supper, having the snacks throughout the day. But throughout those days, I was also living with depression and silence. I was a cutter who ended up stopped cutting because it was very visual. I was a very outgoing person, so a lot of people was able to visually see that, so I wanted to hide it more. So I did stop cutting, but I was very hard on myself. Had issues with food, not so much an eating disorder, but just discomfort. So I always, like as a teenager, had between the mental health as well as eating was a very difficult time. I was very close with teachers growing up, asking questions just about it because I knew I shouldn't feel this way, but I did. So I was really close with teachers that in high school, as well as I had really great social friends that I kept that separate just so it wouldn't interfere with one, because I absolutely loved socializing, being around people, but then had this mental illness that just kind of was a really hard thing to live with while trying to be very social and athletic, and so I was kind of living that double life for the longest time, not really understanding why I felt that way when I was excelling in every sports that I was on. I was very well known in school, so with that it was a very difficult time. When I was about 20, I ended up these physical symptoms of heartburn, acid reflux, abdominal pain. They were very, we thought were between celiac disease. I was tested for Crohn's for 5 years, going under numerous medical tests, had more radiation a person should have in a lifetime. And the difficult thing was that all these medical tests were coming back normal. There wasn't anything wrong. So that was the biggest, trying to figure out, I have all these symptoms, and by last July, these symptoms came and wouldn't go. They just completely flared up, and it was severe heartburn, abdominal pain, severe pain up and down my back. Anytime I, at this point, ate food, it would just come right through me. It didn't matter what it was extremely healthy or no nutritional value at all. It would do the same effects to my body. So last July was pretty much my whole body was extremely toxic. In 3 months I lost, or in 4 months I lost 30 pounds. So by the end of October, I was just pretty much skin and bone at this point. The doctor still said there was absolutely nothing physically wrong with me. So I was off work for about 3 weeks and I started feeling better. So I asked my doctor, even though he didn't agree, but I did end up going back to work. And I was working 12 hours, but I cut down to 8 just to try to get back into it. But those 3 days were just the worst I have lived in a long time, or ever actually. I ended up working 8-hour days on that Monday, and I couldn't finish that. So the next day I was scheduled to work, I cut down to 6. And by noontime then, I was gray, just exhausted, extremely sick again. So then my third day I was scheduled to work again, so I cut down even shorter just to try, and by lunchtime I was sent home. So that was my last day at work, 25 years old, and doctor put me off and didn't have any answers at that time. So I was like, how am I 25, not able to work, but have no diagnosis, or medical doctors not able to give me any type of questions or answers or tips of what I needed to do. So I knew that at that point I was pretty much on my own. I was just waiting for one last CT scan, which I had previous, but they just wanted to double check to make sure there was nothing there. And of course that came back, thankfully, like there's nothing wrong with it or anything. So kind of left us up like, where do we go from here? Once I kind of learned about mold, it really triggered a lot to me. Because growing up, my elementary school, my high school were closed at one point for mold. I had, as a child, I had a speech impediment. I was hard of hearing. I was prone to sore throats, strep throat. I was always on penicillin. And then growing up into a teenager, my menstrual cycles were extremely bad. Like, I missed weeks of school, I would be throwing up, I had extreme back pain. So between that, and then I also had depression through high school, which to me I shouldn't have. Like, it does run in the family, but I just didn't really understand why. Trying so hard not to live with it and stuff, just trying to beat it, but I couldn't. And then graduating, starting to feel a little better, and then coming at the age of 20 with all these strong physical symptoms, just really kind of was like, what is the common denominator here? And looking back at all the buildings I've been, between education and employment buildings for 20 years straight, have been exposed to mold. So just learning about my environment of mold, started learning about what is the effects it has on a body. And I ended up coming across an illness called microtoxis, which is microtoxins, a toxin that comes off of mold. So it's pretty much my whole body was toxic from mold. So at this point, at Christmas time, I had I thought to myself, like, I knew what was wrong, I knew the illness that I had, but now it's just like, what do I do with this information? After learning about Chinese medicine and the lifestyle that they have is really balanced, and that's what I needed at that time. Being off work, not having a daily routine, just really spending all the energy that I had left to just spend it trying to figure out how am I going to survive. After not really trying to figure out how to do this the natural way, I ended up coming across Atlantic Healing Hemp in Berwick. And they had the infrared sauna, which I didn't know anything about at that time. I just knew that it was a great way to detox. So I came in and I talked to the owner, who at that time just completely changed my life. I came in, and just by my physical appearance, she knew that I wasn't healthy at all. And her husband kind of just at that point took me in under the wing, like just touched my heart more than anybody could ever imagine. And they were able to truly, Atlantic Healing Hemp saved my life. They had the infrared sauna, so I did a full body detox. In that first 3 weeks of my full body detox, I lost another 15 pounds. That was from my organs being so toxic. I was about 120 pounds, maybe a size 16 kids at that time. And it was just, my abdominal area was just completely swollen. So doing the 3 weeks of detox, I could hear and feel and see the movements of my organs detoxing and whatnot. And they also have a T-zone machine, which is great for circulation. It helps and so many different benefits for it. And at that time, or even today, I still use it for helping to gain weight. But the biggest savior was the oils and the seeds. The benefits of the whole foods that hemp has The deficiencies that I was living with and all the symptoms that I had for 5 years, the hemp was able to heal them, like truly to help with the deficiencies and balance what my body needed to this day. I've gained almost 7 solid pounds back. I have no symptoms at all left. I'm starting to hopefully in the next couple weeks to get back to work. Won't be where I was employed at before, but definitely starting to really come around and